વેલકમ ફ્રેન્ડ્સ. આપ સૌને શ્રી અને શ્રીમતી પી.કે. કુટાવાલા આર્ટ્સ કોલેજ પાટણમાં એડમિશન મળવા બદલ અભિનંદન. આપ સૌએ આપનું સ્કૂલિંગ પૂરું કર્યું છે અને હવે તમે કારકિર્દી બનાવવા તરફ પહેલું પગલું ભર્યું છે. તમે તમારા જીવનની પહેલી ડિગ્રી લેવા તરફ આગળ વધ્યા છો. છેલ્લા કેટલાક મહિના આપણા સૌના માટે બહુ જ ખરાબ સમય ગયો છે અને એના જ કારણે જે શિક્ષણ કોલેજમાં ક્લાસમાં લગભગ જુલાઈ મહિનાના પહેલા અઠવાડિયેથી શરૂ થવાના હતા તે થઈ શક્યા નથી અને માટે અમારી શ્રી અને શ્રીમતી પી.કે. કુટાવાલા આર્ટ્સ કોલેજ દ્વારા આ એક ઇનિશિયેટિવ લેવાયું છે કે જો વિદ્યાર્થીઓ ક્લાસ સુધી ન આવી શકતા હોય, આ કેટલાક અનિવાર્ય સંજોગોને કારણે, તો આપણે વિદ્યાર્થીઓને ઘર સુધી શિક્ષણ આપવાનો પ્રયાસ કરવો જોઈએ અને માટે અમે આ શ્રી અને શ્રીમતી પી.કે. કુટાવાલા આર્ટ્સ કોલેજના સર્વ અધ્યાપક મિત્રોએ યુટ્યુબ વિડીયોના માધ્યમથી વિદ્યાર્થીઓને એમના અભ્યાસક્રમને સમજાવવાની શરૂઆત કરવાનો નિર્ણય લીધો છે. તો અમે આશા રાખીએ કે વિદ્યાર્થી મિત્રો અત્યારે આ ડિજિટલ માધ્યમથી ક્લાસ અટેન્ડ કરશે અને પોતાના શિક્ષણ મેળવવાના પ્રયાસને પરિપૂર્ણતા તરફ લઈ જશે. હું આપ સૌને પોતાના જીવનના કારકિર્દી બનાવવાના માર્ગ ઉપર પહેલું પગલું ભરવા બદલ અભિનંદન આપું છું, શુભેચ્છા પાઠવું છું અને હવે આપણે આપણા અભ્યાસક્રમની વાત કરીશું અને મારે જે ભણાવવાનો છે એવા એક મુદ્દાથી હું તમને પરિચય કરાવવાનો પ્રયાસ કરીશ. તો સૌપ્રથમ હું તમને આખો સિલેબસ શું છે એ બતાવીશ અને એની ઉપર છેલ્લી સમજ આપીશ અને પછી મારે જે ભણાવવાનું છે એની વાત કરીશ. તો ચાલો સિલેબસ જોઈએ. So friends, you have two papers in your first semester, two papers of your English special. They are CC 101 and CC 102. So I am supposed to teach you some section of CC 101. There are other parts as well. In core compulsory, CC stands for core compulsory, એટલે કે મુખ્ય. In all the CC papers you will have 4 units. So let's look at the 4 units in CC 101. In Unit 1, you are supposed to study 2 literary forms, essay and short story. In Unit 2, there are 2 works. One is by Shakespeare's Sister by Virginia Woolf, and the other is The Religion of the Forest by Rabindranath Tagore. Unit 3 is about 2 stories. One is by Mulkraj Anand, The Lady Rams, and second one is by great short story writer Edgar Allan Poe, The Fall of the House of Usher. Now the fourth unit is about the acquaintances. Acquaintances means parichaya. And in all the papers that you study during your BA, they will have fourth unit as a question of acquaintances or a unit of acquaintances, and in that fourth unit you will have to acquaint yourself with some of the great writers. It may be literary forms, it may be great works, it may be, if the paper is about tragedy form, then you will have some tragedy plays, and you will have to acquaint yourself with the stories and themes and other things of the play. So, in that manner, what I want to tell you is that the fourth unit in almost all the papers will be about the acquaintances, except the papers on language in the fifth and sixth semester. Now, in this paper, I am supposed to teach you 5 acquaintances, and the 5 acquaintances are in the second column. You can see here Michael de Montaigne, Francis Bacon, Charles Lamb, William Hazlitt, and R.L. Stevenson. All these 5 are essayists in English. Either they are English writers or their essays might have been translated into English. But these are essays, and we need to acquaint ourselves with these essays. So I am beginning with the first in the list, Michael de Montaigne. Michael de Montaigne, you can see the picture. He was born in 1533 and died in 1592. So he hasn't lived even 60 years. He died at the age of 59. Okay. Now Michael de Montaigne, he was a French writer. We are studying of English literature. But this French writer was responsible for introducing the literary form essay in the world. Later on, this literary form essay was taken over or just developed by the great essayists like Francis Bacon, Charles Lamb, and many more. But the introduction of essay form is credited to the French writer Michael de Montaigne. And his essays deal with variety of topics in the world. See, there are writers. Francis Bacon, he talks of some ideal things. Charles Lamb, he expresses his own problems, his own feelings, his own sadness, and other things in his essays. If you take up the essays of Addison and Steele, they will be more humorous, they will be more informative, they will be giving you a very good reading. Now, same way, if you take up Dr. Samuel Johnson, then he is purely philosophical as far as his writings or essays are concerned. So this man, Michael de Montaigne, wrote his essays on variety of topics. He has taken up the topics like Epicureanism, theology, dogmatism, skepticism, etc. These are some of the some new words for you, but you don't have to worry about these words because we are going to understand these words later on. His essay style has certain special qualities. Look at the point number 3. Characterized by a discursive style, a lively conversational tone. So his essays are not those stereotype essays wherein you find long paragraphs one after another and just one way kind of traffic. No, he has written the essays in a conversational tone, conversational style, as if the person is talking to the readers, and the use of numerous quotations from classical writers. Not only that, he has taken up certain quotations, certain good lines given by some great classical writers and used them in his essays. So his essays are providing you a quality of novelty as well. One of the most important figure in the late French Renaissance. This is something very good about Michael Montaigne. And one more thing that I would like to focus here is the word Renaissance. Now, Renaissance is something which has taken place in almost all the countries during a particular period. You are going to understand what is Renaissance in detail in your paper number CC1022. So I am not uh, discussing Renaissance in detail, but Renaissance એટલે કે નવજાગૃતિ, it took place in England. Same kind of Renaissance took place in France, and in this French Renaissance, Michael de Montaigne was one of the most important figures. So he was one of the leaders of Renaissance, and he is appreciated both for his literary innovations as well as for his contributions to philosophy. So not only the literary things that he has contributed, he has been a great philosopher, and he has contributed a lot in the field of philosophy as well. We move to the other slide. Michael Aquinas de Montaigne was born on February 28, 1533 in Château de Montaigne near Libourne in France. It is difficult to pronounce certain names of France, for French language rather. But we can understand that he was born in France. He was born near a big place called Libourne, and the place where he was born is called Château de Montaigne. So Michael Montaigne was born in 1533, and he was born in a wealthy family which had number of estates to their possession. So in a way, this man was born with, we can say, golden or silver spoons. He was in a rich family. He was born in a rich family. And you can see that he was not taught at any government school or any private school. He was tutored at his home, and later on he got his education at the college de Guyane. So for college education he had to go to a college. Otherwise, as far as the school education is concerned, he got tutored at his home, and this is the facility that the rich people used to get. He studied law probably in Toulouse. So after college he might have studied law also. His first literary task was a translation published in 1569 of Theologia Naturalis by the Spanish theologian Raymond of Sebon. So this is the first contribution by Michael de Montaigne. And what did he do? What was his first literary activity? That was a translation. Translation of a work by a Spanish theologian. Theologian means Dharmasastri, somebody who used to write on religion, and the book was Theologia Naturalis. It was written by a Spanish theologian, Raymond of Sebon. This man, this French man, Michael Montaigne, he translated the Spanish work into his own language, that is French. In 1571, Montaigne inherited the family estate, including the Château de Montaigne. So he was a rich man. He was born in a rich family, and around the age of we can say 40, he could inherit. I mean, he was given the possession of his estates, and one of them was Château de Montaigne, the place which he loved most, the place where he was born. He spent the rest of his life there. બાકીનું બધું જીવન એણે એ જગ્યાએ જ પસાર કર્યું, અને એક સામાન્ય ગામડાના એક સદગૃહસ્થની જેમ, following the pursuits of a country gentleman. Now, country in English language, and when you are talking of England or France or any European country with that place, in that kind of literature, in that kind of writing, countryman stands for village. So he lived the life of a country gentleman, studying his favorite classical authors. So he was interested in studying classical writers and writing his great collection of essays titled Essays. So this is his great contribution to literature in general, and that was the collection of essays. That collection of essays was written in three parts, in three books. The first two books uh, appeared in 1580, and the third book appeared after 8 years in 1588. So that is the peak of Montaigne's literary contribution. This work, Essays in Three Books, is considered the best contribution by Montaigne. Montaigne's essays were first translated by the English lexicographer John Florio. As we know, Montaigne had translated a book on theology by a Spanish writer into French. Now, his essays were translated by an English lexicographer named John Florio, and that is how the English readers could come in contact or could lay their hands on the works of on the essays of Michael de Montaigne. The American scholar Donald Frame translated the complete works and letters of Montaigne in 1957. There was another person, Donald Frame, and he translated other works and letters of Montaigne into English. His only other work is an account of his travels that appeared in 1774. Apart from these essays, he has written the accounts, or he has given the accounts of his travels. He was a man who used to roam around, he used to move to different places, and that documentary or those experiences of travels are presented by Montaigne in his works, and these uh, that account of his travels appeared in 1774. Montaigne served two terms between 1585 and 81 and 85 as a mayor of Bordeaux. Now, this is something about his political life. The man was an introvert kind of person, but he was called to perform this duty as a mayor of a place called Bordeaux, and that he did for two times during that period of 5 years, 81 to 85. During his last years of his life, Montaigne remained in retirement except for visits to Paris and Rome. So, in the last years of his life, he did not move out of his place. Of course, once or twice he visited certain places like Paris and Rome. Otherwise, he used to remain secluded to his own place of birth. As a thinker, Montaigne is noted for his study of institutions, opinions, and customs, and for his opposition to all forms of dogmatism that have no rational basis. So, what did he do as a thinker? He was a thinker, and being a thinker, he is noted for his study of institutions, opinions, and customs. તે જુદી જુદી સંસ્થાઓ, લોકોના અભિપ્રાયો અને રિવાજોનો અભ્યાસ કરતો. And for his opposition to all forms of dogmatism. Now, dogmatism, the word that I used earlier, dogmatism means a person who believes in power, who believes in certain રૂલ્સ, ઓલ્ડ રૂલ્સ, રૂઢિવાદી જેને કહી શકીએ, નિરંકુશ સત્તાવાદી હોય તો આવા સત્તાવાદ કે રૂઢિવાદનો એ વિરોધી હતા. That means, as a thinker, he did not believe in old values, old negative values, rather, I would say, because following all those dogmas rigidly, that could harm the society, the new society, and that is why this man believed that these dogmas do not have any rational basis, તાર્કિકપણું એમાં છે નહીં, અને therefore it has to be opposed. So this is one good thing about Montaigne. Montaigne observed life with philosophical skepticism. He emphasized the contradictions and incoherence inherent in human nature and behavior. Now, skepticism. So, he observed the life of skepticism. Now, skepticism means nastikta, shanshayavad. So, it's not that he was not the believer of God, but he did not believe anything blindly. He was a skeptic, philosophically skeptic, and he emphasized the contradictions and incoherence inherent in human nature and behavior. Because human nature and behavior are not in coherence with each other, and if that is happening, then why should he be believing certain people, certain dogmas, certain things? And that is why he was a skeptic. He emphasized the contradictions. અને વિરોધાભાસ જે હતા માણસના સ્વભાવ અને વર્તનમાં જે વિરોધાભાસ હતા, જે તાલમેલનો અભાવ હતો, તો he was always critical of those things. And the third thing is basic morality tended towards Epicureanism, however, revealing the attitudes of a scholar and humanist who refused to be enslaved by passions and desires. So, his morality tended towards Epicureanism, and however revealing the attitudes of a scholar, because he was a scholar, and that scholar has an attitude, he has a kind of thinking that could be reflected in his kind of Epicureanism, and humanist who refuse to be enslaved by passions and desires. So he believed that a person may have money, but he cannot go on just exploiting the money, just exploiting the people on the basis of money. No. So he did not believe in passions and desires. On the contrary, he believed in living a balanced kind of life, and that was his own way of Epicureanism. His longest essay, he has written an essay, Apologie de Raymond de Sebond, is an inquiry into the rational powers and religious aspirations of the individual. તેમનો જે એસે છે એપોલોજી ધ રેમન્ડ ડી સેબોન, એ ખરેખર તો શું છે? તો કે રેશનલ પાવર્સ એન્ડ રિલિજિયસ એસ્પિરેશન્સ ઓફ ધ ઇન્ડિવિજ્યુઅલ. મનુષ્યની તાર્કિકતા અને ધાર્મિક એષણાઓ, ધાર્મિક અપેક્ષાઓના સંબંધની તપાસ કરતો અથવા તો એ અંગેની ઇન્ક્વાયરી કરતો, એ અંગેની વાતો કરતો આ નિબંધ છે. Now we move to the another slide. Let's see his general impression, the general idea about this man. He was a man with mostly conservative views. Now, in literature and philosophy, he admired the ancient writers. See, conservative views means the man who believed in old things, believed in old valuable things. So, in literature, and here the word conservative is not in a negative sense. In literature and philosophy, he admired the ancient writers. He believed that whatever the ancient writers have written is very important. It can be very useful to the modern society or to the society of his times. In politics, he preferred monarchy as the form of government most likely to ensure peace and order. We are nowadays living in the world of democracy, but this man believed that there should be monarchy, no democracy. It should be monarchy. And why monarchy should be there? because he believed that the government which is run by monarchy ensures peace and order. રાજાના શાસનમાં વધુ શાંતિ, વધુ શિસ્ત રહે છે, and that is why he favored monarchy. So we can say he was a conservative as far as his thinking about political rule is concerned. On education, he was interested in the training of the aristocrat, believed that the pupils should be taught the art of living. This shows his democratic thinking as far as his attitude towards society is concerned. He says all the pupils should be taught the art of living. That means students or pupils should be taught in such a way that they can be very good citizens after when they grow up. This art is mastered through developing the powers of observation and conversation and through travel. So, art of living, how would you develop it? So, this could be developed through developing the powers of observation and conversation. તમારી આંખો ખુલ્લી હોવી જોઈએ. You should be able to converse with the people and you should be traveling a lot. So when વધુ જે માણસ વધુ ફરે છે તેને વધુ જ્ઞાન પ્રાપ્ત કરે છે. તો એ પ્રકારે જુદી વધારે મુસાફરી કરો, લોકો સાથે મળતા રહો, લોકોનું અવલોકન કરતા રહો, અને if you do these things then you can understand a true art of living. You can learn it. Reading should serve to aid in arriving at correct judgments and not in merely improving the memory. As we know, he secluded himself to the place where he was born and he was interested in reading classical writers. But that reading was not simply for memory. It was not for the improvement of memory. No. He believed that reading should serve to aid in arriving at correct judgments. તમે સાચો નિર્ણય શેના આધારે લેશો? તો કે ભાઈ તમે જેટલું વધુ વાંચન કર્યું હશે એટલી વધુ સમજ હશે, અને જેટલી વધુ સમજ હશે એટલું તમે સાચા નિર્ણય લઈ શકશો. So in a way, reading should be helpful in making good judgments. It is not something to be remembered for a longer time and doing nothing. No. He insisted on rigorous physical training as part of the development of the whole person, mind and body. તો જો આર્ટ ઓફ લિવિંગની વાત કરી, પછી સારા નિર્ણયોની વાત કરી, એવી જ રીતે એક બીજી ક્વોલિટી છે જે એવું માનતા હતા કે શારીરિક તાલીમ પણ લેવી જોઈએ. અને રીઝન as part of the development of the whole person, mind and body. Personality of a person, brain or mind of a person, and the physique of a person, they can be developed if a person goes through rigorous physical training. તો સ્વસ્થ શરીર, સ્વસ્થ મન, સ્વસ્થ મગજ, આ જે વાતો આપણે કહીએ છીએ, we can say Michael Montaigne also supported those thoughts. This Michael Montaigne died of quinsy at the age of 59 in 1592 at the Chateau de Montaigne. કારણ કે આપણે જાણીએ છીએ કે he lived there in Chateau de Montaigne. પણ એમને what is quinsy? Quinsy જે તમે જાણો છો કે આપણે જેને ટોન્સિલ્સ કહીએ છીએ ગુજરાતીમાં, એને કાકડા કહેવાય. તો ગળામાં કાકડા થતા હોય, તો this man had tonsils and those tonsils got or rather the condition of the tonsils worsened. એ સેપ્ટિક થઈ ગયું, એમાં પાક થઈ ગયો, અને because of that he lost his capacity to speak and later on he died. તો આવા કાકડાના એક રોગના કારણે એમનું મૃત્યુ એક યોગ્ય ઉંમર કરતાં વહેલું મૃત્યુ થયું. So this was something about Michael de Montaigne, and we are just finishing our lecture here, but you need to understand this one. You should go through these slides if possible. I'm putting it on the YouTube. And if you have any question, then you can ask me. Okay, thank you.